This story happened a couple years ago, and this is the really only creepy encounter I have had in my life. I hope this is the right place for a story like this. I am a single mother and live in a fairly large city in the Midwest. Just me and my toddler. It was winter when this happened, and there was a pretty fierce snowstorm blowing outside. I am a smoker, so I still have to go outside and deal with the wind in my face with snow as I feed my final craving of the night. My porch is covered and has trees in front of it, so it is really hard to see in at night. I never turn my porch light on when I go out to smoke. It was really late, 11 or 12 o'clock, and the street was deserted. Although I live in a big city, my neighborhood is really quiet at night, and my street dead ends at a park, so there isn't much traffic. As soon as I stepped outside, I could hear something in the distance. I spark up my cigarette anyways and look down the street to where the noise was coming from. It sounded sort of like an animal growling. The noise got closer, but was still about a block away. I could now see a man walking. He was dressed in black, hood up, and I couldn't make anything out beyond this. He was speaking in a deep growl. It was the most demonic thing I have ever heard. It honestly did not sound human, but I know crazy can make people inhuman. It's hard for me to describe just how fear-invoking this voice was, but I also have a curious nature. So I stood frozen in the storm, like a deer in the headlights, watching and listening. I can't really remember most of what he said, but I do remember the phrase, "This is the book of the dead." He was walking on the opposite side of the road from my house, and had made it about half a block away. I hadn't moved from directly in front of my door, holding my phone with a death grip in my pocket. I am smoking my cigarette as quickly as possible to get back inside. He was approaching the intersection right before my dead-end street, and I figured he would turn. I hoped he would turn. He didn't. He kept walking towards the dead end, speaking in this deranged voice, incoherently, something about this book. At this point, there are a million things racing through my mind. He can't see me. He's just some random crazy. Even though he was just about right across from my house, I still couldn't make any details of his face, or really see anything beyond the black hood. Suddenly, he stops talking, stops walking, and his hood slowly turns in my direction. I drop my cigarette, rush into my house, and lock the door. I quickly look out the window to see what he does. He just stood there for probably 30 seconds and started walking again. He crossed the street and stopped again, directly in front of my house now. He stood there, facing the house, for 3 to 4 minutes. I stood behind my locked door, staring at him as he stared back at me. Although he was only 20 feet from me, his hood still concealed his face. I was debating internally if I should call the cops, the phone still clutched in my hand. But he honestly wasn't breaking the law in any way. He was just standing on the sidewalk looking at my house. The standoff felt like it lasted an hour, with my heart leaping out of my chest. He was silent as he stood there, and the only thing I could hear was the wind and pellets of snow tapping my windows. He turned and started walking again, speaking again in his growl. He kept on walking down the dead end and into the park. I could faintly hear his demonic voice through the door as he walked, and that was it. He was gone. I checked on my son, and he was sleeping soundly, although I can't say I did the same that night. So my boyfriend, 2 other friends and I went on our annual trip to New York City in January, a few years ago. Everything went great and we had a great time. On our way back from the city, we were traveling home to West Virginia. We were driving through Pennsylvania. We started hearing weird noises from the engine in my friend's car, and then we coasted to a stop right outside Allentown. We were all exhausted from late nights and early mornings in the city, and this was just the last thing we wanted to deal with. We called AAA and sat in the car, joking and laughing about what bad luck we had. It was probably around 9:30 p.m. About 20 minutes later, a huge truck pulls up behind us. A guy gets out and comes to the window, asking what we think is wrong. We asked if he was the person from AAA, to which he grunted a, yeah. He was a scruffy, older guy, but he was really tall and seemed to be in shape. We told him what happened, and he said he might have something in his truck that could help, and he would be right back. So, he goes to his truck, and we are all talking about how it's weird he didn't just start towing us somewhere. We figured we would have to get a hotel, and didn't expect the car would be fixable within a few minutes of AAA arriving. The guy comes back and says he doesn't have everything he needed in his truck. He then suggested one of us, we were all 4 college-aged guys, come to his truck with him and go back to his garage to get what we needed, and then return to the car. We all awkwardly looked at each other and kind of rambled on about how we didn't want to leave anyone because we only had one charged phone between us. Then, my phone starts ringing, and I don't recognize the number, but I pick up anyway, thinking it might be one of the other guy's parents. The guy on the line says, "Hey, this is so-and-so from AAA, and I can't seem to find you guys." My heart stopped. I said into the phone, "There is a guy from AAA here, right now." The guy on the phone said, "Nope, my garage is the only one in the area that works with AAA, so I don't know who you're talking to. Where are you guys?" I look up and then see the real AAA guy's lights driving on the other side of the interstate. I talk into the phone and tell him that that's us. He said he would be over in just a minute and to not get out of the car. The other guys in the car overheard me talking to this guy, obviously, and we were all freaking out, not knowing what to do about the guy who keeps trying to help us. He comes back to the car. "If you guys want to get this car fixed, one of you will have to come with me, because I only have room for one, but I can't carry all the equipment by myself." We all kind of sit there, scared shitless because there's this guy who just lied to us and wants to take one of us with him in his huge truck to his garage. While this guy is still trying to convince us, I see another set of bright lights pull up to the side of the road with us. It is an actual tow truck, so I know it's the guy I just spoke to. Immediately, the scruffy truck driver bolts back to his truck and starts driving away. The rest of the trip was uneventful. We had to crash at our friend's grandmother's abandoned house that was about 100 miles away, and during it was one of those huge snowstorms we had in 2009 or 2010. I am sure that that guy wanted one of us to go with him, and that we would never see the light of day again. It's really creepy thinking about.